Good morning everyone, and welcome to this week's sports podcast. It's Friday, the 10th of December 2021, and I hope that your preparations for the festive season are going well. You're getting your presents bought, your cards written, and you're getting your food bought, ready for the big day in a couple of weeks' time. Anyway, we've got plenty to get on with this week, so without further ado, let's get on with it. I'm going to start with the cricket this time, obviously, because the Ashes started on Wednesday, and we've just completed day 3 of the first test at the Gabba in Brisbane. And I've got to say, England's start to the match was absolutely terrible, but they are actually fighting back a little bit now, and they're in with a shout of even possibly saving the match, or God even knows, maybe even winning it due to the fight back at the moment. So, obviously, England won the toss and chose to bat. Looked to be a really poor decision when they were skittled out for 147. At one point, they were 11 for 3, really struggling. Joe Root, England's backbone, captain, main man, is out for a duck in the first innings, and they were really struggling. It was only really Butler and Pope that got any decent scores. Butler got 39 and Pope scored 35. Patrick Cummins scored, took 5 wickets for 36, I think it was, something like that. And he became the first Australian captain to take 5 wickets in a match for some time. In fact, they were the first bowling captain to take 5 wickets in a match in Australia since, I think it said, Anil Kumble for India when he was their captain. So that was a good performance by Cummins. But then when Australia battered, few records broken by Travis Head. I think it was a third equal fastest century in Test cricket. He scored 100 off 80 odd balls or something like that, and he was the main thorn in England's side during the batting innings. Got 152 off 148, including 14 fours and 4 sixes. They particularly put Jack Leach to the sword. He really struggled in the first innings of his bowling. I think it was, let's look, got 1 for 102 off 13 overs. That's an economy rate of 7.85. That's pretty bad, I've got to say. Stokes went much better, but having said that, in his first couple of overs, he got Warner out, he bowled him, but it was a no ball, and he ruled that decision. I think he was on like 10 or 15, something like that, and he ended up getting 94. But Warner's actually got a rib injury now and he hasn't been able to field. He's hurt his ribs, he's got bruising to it. So whether he's going to be fit to bat in the second innings, we'll see. I'm sure he will. He's Aussies are tough, aren't they? They don't back down from a fight. So he'll be there. But so he was good support to Travis Head. Marnus Labuschagne also the danger man, probably one of the main men for Australia. He got 74. So they got 425 runs in the first innings in Australia. So they were sort of like, hang on, let's have a look how they were in front. There were 278 runs in the first innings in front. So it's an uphill battle for England. I've just watched the highlights of the second innings so far. England are fighting back quite nicely. They're 220 for 2. The Yorkshire men, Yorkshire players, David Milan's 80 not out, and Joe Root's under 86 not out. They were 61 for 2. I've got to say Hamid has looked quite good in his 2 innings so far. He got 25 and 27, I think he's scored in his 2 innings. Rory Burns has struggled. I was pleased he actually got some runs on the board this time. He got 13, which is unlucky for him. But actually was given out on 0, but he reviewed the decision against him, and it showed that the ball was going over the wickets. So was a relief for him. At least he got some runs on the board. He got 13. So England are 220 for 2 at the end of play on the third day. 58 runs behind with 8 wickets left. So you'd like to think that at the very least they'll take the game to the last day, but you never know with cricket. Anything can happen. I'm just looking at the live win probability on the screen. It's Australia 69, draw 20, England 11. I'd say that's a fair summation of what's happened in the match so far and what the current situation is. It'll be interesting to see if the pitch starts breaking up on day 4. Nathan Lyon's already bowled 24 overs, but he hasn't taken any wickets. I saw a few balls that he bowled which were close to the bat. There were a couple of moments where he looked like he got a bit excited, but he does that as Gary, doesn't he? So, but he's had no effect so far. You've got to bear in mind if Lyon has some effect, then Leach will come into play more in the second innings. And we've also got Joe Root as backup. So let's see what happens. I don't think Brisbane's ever been England's favourite ground, and it's called the Gabatoir for a reason, because Australia always win there. So let's hope England can put up a good fight, and we'll report back next week on the outcome. And also we'll be starting. Well, the second test will have started by then anyway, Adelaide, because that starts next week. I think it starts on Thursday. So we'll be already underway by the time we do next week's podcast as well. So that's where we are in the test match at the moment. Now we'll move on to football, and we'll start by talking about the European games during the week, because we're at a stage now where we're making the draws for the knockout stages. The draws take place from 11 o'clock on Monday morning in Switzerland, and I think the Champions League draw is first. So, with regards to the English teams, Chelsea will be disappointed. They only managed to draw in their final group game, which means they've not finished top of the group. Juventus now finished top of the group, so they go into second place. And the other three English teams here, Manchester United, Liverpool, and Manchester City, all won their groups, and they're all going to be in pot number one. So if you look at the potential draws for the next round, Liverpool have got six possible opponents. The hardest one of those is going to be probably PSG. In fact, it will be PSG. The rest of the teams they can face are Inter Milan, Sporting Lisbon, Benfica, Villarreal, or RB Salzburg, who have been a bit of a surprise package but look a good team. Manchester United, they can play Atletico Madrid or PSG. And Inter Milan, so they've got potentially tough draws there. They'll be hoping to get RB Salzburg possibly, but then again, you wouldn't want to underestimate them. They might be better off getting Sporting Lisbon or Benfica, who always seem to get through but aren't really that good. So, and then you've got City. They could draw Atletico, Inter, Sporting Lisbon, RB Salzburg, Villarreal or Benfica. I don't think they'll fear any of those. The toughest one's probably going to be Atletico Madrid, but they're not as good as have been in previous years, I don't think. They have got great players still, though. Obviously, like they've got Griezmann, and they've also got Luis Suarez. Chelsea, they've only got four potential opponents, but their potential opponents are not really very easy at all, because obviously you can't play another team from your own countries. That rules out three of the teams, the English teams. So they've got Ajax, Real Madrid, Bayern Munich or Lille. They're going to want Lille probably out of those four. Ajax possibly, but they're not a bad team. Real Madrid, not as good as they were, but they definitely won't want to face Bayern Munich. That'll be a worst possible draw at this stage. So those games will be played in February and March. It's spread out over 4 weeks basically. So that's for TV and money, I reckon. It has been like this for a few years now. So 15th, 16th, 22nd and 23rd of February, they're the first legs. And then the second legs are played on 8th and 9th and 15th and 16th of March. So that's up to date there with the Champions League where we are at the moment. Also, remember there's no away goals rule anymore in the Champions League or in these competitions. So you need to bear that in mind. It'll be a straight draw. There will be extra time and penalties as normal. The finals in St. Petersburg in Russia, and that is going to be taking place on the 28th of May next year. Europa League draw is also on Monday, as so is the draw for the Conference League. Leicester made a bit of a mess of it. In fact, they made more than a bit of a mess of it last night, and they've dropped out of the Europa League now, sadly, and they're in the Conference League. West Ham won their group, so they're not going to be involved in the draws on Monday. They're seeded straight through to the last 16 draw, which takes place on the 25th of February next year. Basically, the 8 teams from the Europa League that finished second in the groups play the 8 teams that are dropping down that finished third in their groups in the Champions League, and that draw takes place on Monday, like I say. And in the Conference League, the 8 teams that have dropped down from the Europa League, which features Leicester and Celtic, they're going to play the 8 running-up teams from the Conference League as well. They're in that because the teams that have finished top of the Conference League will go through to the Europa League group stage, through Europa League stage. So Leicester could face any teams that aren't seeded. They're not seeded at Leicester in this draw, nor Celtic. But the teams that are seeded could be Tottenham or Vitesse. Tottenham haven't got through yet into the playoffs because they've still got to play the final game. The last qualifying match last night against Rennes was called off due to a massive outbreak of COVID at Tottenham. So we're not sure when that game's going to be played yet. We normally make sure that the games are played before the next round due to take place. And that's going to be in February. But we don't know a date for it yet. We'll come on to Tottenham again in a minute when we talk about the Premier League. So that's what's going on. It's a bit confusing for the Conference League and the Europa League. I don't think we really needed this extra competition. They could have just stuck with the old European Cup, UEFA Cup, and the Cup Winners' Cup, I think. But no money and everything else and complications, and allowing teams that probably aren't good enough to be in it. To be fair, they shouldn't be in Europe. Some of these teams, but they've got to be seen to be giving everybody a fair chance, I suppose, in this day and age. But some of the teams really are up to the standard required. They probably won't even beat some of the Championship and League One teams, I don't reckon, in England. So anyway, that's the way it goes, and that's what's happening with the European competitions. We return to action again in the Premier League this weekend, And last weekend, Manchester City and Liverpool continued a serene way at the top. Chelsea was not really surprised, but they lost to West Ham 3-2 away. West Ham closed the gap to the top three teams by beating Chelsea 3 goals to 2. Chelsea were very sloppy, like they were during midweek of the game against Zenit in the Champions League, conceding 3 goals in the last 2 games, which is very unlike them. I'm sure Tuchel won't be too happy about it. Oh, he didn't look it. He looked very angry actually. So, not happy there. Tottenham are currently in 5th place, but their game this weekend's already been called off because the COVID outbreak had caused the cancellation of last night's conference game with Rennes. The game against Brighton on Sunday has already been cancelled as they can't field a team, and it's a bit worrying. I think maybe I can't remember if it's Chelsea have also got a possible outbreak of COVID as well. There are a few cases there, so hopefully it isn't going to spread too much and cause disruption to the Premier League. Manchester United are on a bit of a run now under the new manager. They had a narrow win against Crystal Palace by 1-0 on Sunday. Rangnick's there now getting things going. So he's doing okay. Villa, they won. They beat Leicester 2-1. Leicester not having such a good season. They're 11th place in the league. Obviously, like I say, I've mentioned, they're out of the Europa League and been relegated to the Conference League. Everton they won, did Everton. They beat Arsenal, but they were slightly fortunate. They had 2 goals disallowed, but they were only shots they had in target in all game, really, if it's scored with. The ones that were disallowed were all the other shots they had. So, Richarlison will be pleased that he scored eventually after having both his goals disallowed, but he was offside. It was very marginal, one of them particularly, but we need to pick up. Brentford are dropping back a bit now, but they got a draw at Leeds. Leeds are still struggling, but Bamford's made his comeback. He scored in 96 minutes. He scored him a draw at Elland Road on Sunday against Brentford, 2-2. Watford dropping near to the bottom of the table. There's a gap. There's sort of like a gap now. But Leeds and Southampton are in 15th and 16th. They've got 16 points. Villa are in 10th. They've got 19. They're all like quite a compact group there. Then you've got Watford on 13, bridging the gap to the bottom 3 teams. Burnley, Newcastle, and Norwich have all got 10 points now, so they're not that far behind. So they closed the gap there. And this week we've got 2 rounds of games. So we've got games a weekend, and we've also got games midweek next week, which are all going to be on BT Sport. But this weekend they start. The first game's tonight actually. Brentford take on Watford. That's on Sky Sports, 8 o'clock kickoff. Tomorrow lunchtime game is Manchester City against Wolves, and that's the BT game for tomorrow. And we've got important games that aren't actually on TV. Chelsea Leeds, Liverpool Villa are both at 3 o'clock kickoffs. Then you've got the 5:30 game on TV, which is against Sky. Norwich against Manchester United. And Sunday's live game is Crystal Palace against Everton at 4:30. And I think Leicester and Newcastle are on as well at 2 o'clock. So they're the games for TV. Then we jump to Tuesday, and like I say, all 10 games are on BT Sport. We've got Brentford Man United, Norwich Villa, and Man City Leeds on Tuesday evening. And we've got Brighton Wolves, Crystal Palace Southampton, Burnley Watford, Arsenal West Ham, Leicester Tottenham. They're on Wednesday, and then Leicester and Tottenham on Thursday as it stands if a game goes ahead, because obviously Tottenham got this issue with COVID. Chelsea Everton and Liverpool Newcastle are Thursday night games, so double rounds of games there again. Let's see whether people can make inroads into the leads that's been established at the top of the table by those 3 teams. City, Liverpool and Chelsea. Heading towards the really busy Christmas period now. I think it said last night that Leicester have got 9 games in December altogether, including probably, I don't know if it's still in the League Cup or not, League Cup semi-finals or quarter-finals, should I say, are on the 22nd and 23rd of December, I think. So, 21st and 22nd December. So they've got to be fitted in as well. So that's what's going on in the Premier League at the moment. In the Conference National, Halifax have 2 games this week as well. They've rearranged the game from last weekend, which should have been at home to Kings Lynn. That's next Tuesday, the 14th, but they're away to Wealdstone tomorrow, Saturday the 11th. Hoping to get back on the right road after a disappointing defeat in the FA Cup. To lose to Kidderminster was a major disappointment. I actually were fully confident we'd beat them. I know Kidderminster have been going well in the National Conference North, but I thought we'd been playing well, but to not have a single shot on target in the whole game and to whimper out after be 2-0 down after 17 minutes, really poor, disappointing performance. And like Pete Wild said, the team got what it deserved, and I think the players will know that. Hopefully they'll bounce back this weekend, because we are still 5th in the league, and we have got games in hand on Bromley and Wrexham. We're 3rd and 4th and just above us, so we want to make inroads into that. We're only a point, we're level on points with Wrexham actually. It's just the goal difference that's the difference there. They've scored more goals and they've got a couple better goal difference actually. But we've got 2 games in hand on the same number of points, and we're 1 point behind Bromley. So and be looking to get at least 4 points, probably 6 from these two games. Chesterfield are only 3 points ahead of us and played the same number of games. Let's see if they get distracted by the fact they've got through to the third round of the FA Cup, and they're away to Chelsea. They're actually away to Grimsby tomorrow, and that's not going to be easy. Grimsby forming that's good, but they'll be up for a big game against Chesterfield like that. So tomorrow, yep, Grimsby against Chesterfield. It's probably the highlight of the 3 o'clock games. Let's have a quick look. Obviously, Town's game, Altrincham, Bromley, Torquay, Stockport, and then the tea time game on the TV is Wrexham against Weymouth on BT Sport. And then we've got, like I say, Tuesday night, we've got Towner at home to Kings Lynn and Eastleigh at home to Solihull as well that evening. I think there's a couple more games as well, actually. Other than that, Grimsby playing Boreham Wood, so that's an important match. Oh, sorry, that's the week after. That's on Tuesday the 21st, but we'll look at that then. There's a couple of important games that night as well. I can see Chesterfield are playing Notts County that night as well. They both come from the same game rounds that were missed as the Halifax and the Eastleigh game this week. So that's what's going on in the conference. Let's say hope Halifax can get back on the right road and get themselves back up to say third after these two games. That's what we're looking for, no doubt. So we'll move on from football now. Just have a quick chat about Speedway. We had the annual general meeting of Speedway this week, and it's been ratified, but there'll be the same 6 teams in the top league in the Premiership next season. As you probably are aware, 4 of the teams have announced their full lineups. Wolves and Bellevue are the 2 that haven't so far, but Wolves have announced last night that Sam Masters will be back to lead the team next season. Hopefully he'll keep up his form from where he was last year, both for Edinburgh and for Wolves. And then Bellevue have announced that Max Frick has rejoined the club and Charles Wright has signed for another season as well. So they're the 2 at Bellevue have announced this week. I think Wolves have already got 3 or 4, so they've only got 2 or 3 more to add to their lineup. But Bellevue have only announced those 2 so far. So hopefully they'll be completing the lineups in the next week or so. I'd like to think so. I believe Troy Batchelor was supposed to be joining Bellevue, but he changed his mind, gave backward and chose to go to Ipswich instead, which messed up Bellevue's plans. But I don't know how true that was. It was just a rumour. That's what the rumours are, strong rumours. I would imagine Speedway, stuff like that tends to be pretty accurate. So, but the same 6 teams will be taking part in the Premiership next season, and in the Championship, the changes are just one change. We've got the same number of teams. Unfortunately, Kent have dropped out because they haven't been able to sort their issues out with their landlords at the venue in Sittingbourne, so they're out. And they're replaced by Oxford returning. I'm pleased to say that Birmingham's takeover has gone through, so they'll be taking part again this year in the Championship. So that's it basically for what's going on in the British Speedway situation at the moment, and I'll keep you informed with further signings by both Wolves and by Bellevue. Right, now we'll move on to the NFL because we're on to week 14, should I say, coming up now, and looking at the tables, the teams that are in form at the moment in the AFC, Patriots have won 7 in a row, and the Dolphins have won 5 in a row. They both hit form. The Chiefs are starting to come back now. They've won 5 in a row as well, and they're the teams in the form in the AFC. And in the NFC, we've got the Washington football team. Nearly said the wrong name then. 4 wins in a row they've had now. And we've got the Buccaneers who are sort of like starting to show some of the form that took them to the Super Bowl last year. They're on 9-3. They've won 3 in a row now. In the NFC, Cardinals are still going well. They've won 10 out of their 12 games so far. So it's looking strong, the Cardinals. Packers are still looking decent. They've got 9-3 record as well. And the Cowboys have got an 8-4 record. So there's quite a few strong teams in the NFC. And in the AFC, we've got a handful of teams. We've already mentioned the ones that are in form. Patriots are now 9-4. Chiefs are 8-4. Ravens are 8-4. Titans are 8-4. So they're the best teams probably out of the ones that are going so far. Bengals are 7-5. They've dropped off a little bit. They lost the last game. Looking ahead to this weekend, we've already had one game last night, and the Vikings defeated the Steelers by 36 points to 28. They held off a late fight back by the Steelers. The main man for the Vikings was Dalvin Cook. He got 2 touchdowns for them, so that's a good result for them. Coming up this weekend, on Sunday, we've got the Jets against the Saints. Panthers take on the Falcons. Texans take on the Seahawks. Chiefs have the Raiders. Browns play the Ravens. Washington Football Club take on the Cowboys. Titans and Jags. Broncos and Lions. And we've got the Chargers and the Giants. Bengals take on the 49ers. the Bucks take on the Bills, and then the Sunday night football is the Packers against the Bears, and then the Monday night football we've got the Cardinals against the Rams. So plenty to look forward to there. And like I say, we're getting to the sharp end now. We're not far off the playoffs, and hopefully, if your team's doing well, let me keep doing it for the rest of the season, and maybe they'll reach the Super Bowl. And I'll be up back again on that with some more details next weekend. So I think that's about it. One other thing I want to mention is it's the last weekend of the Formula One motor races season this weekend. It's all to play for. Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen are level on points as it stands at the moment. It's all open to see what happens this weekend in the final Grand Prix of the season. As it stands, if both cars don't finish, Verstappen will win based on the number of race victories he's had this season so far. So watch out for any. Well, you could get tactics from either side, really. To be fair, what could happen, but Hamilton will be hoping to secure another title, and Verstappen will be hoping to secure his very first title. It's been a nip and tuck season so far. They're well clear of the rest of the drivers. It has been a little bit more interesting this season. I've actually seen some of the races, so it's been better than some of the previous seasons. It's been a little bit boring. There's been a little bit more to it this season, so it's been worth watching as far as I'm concerned. So let's see who comes out on top, should I say, on Sunday in the final Grand Prix. So it's at the Yas Marina, is the race in Abu Dhabi, and the first practice is showing that Max Verstappen's been quickest so far. So it's like I say, it's all to play for. Okay, well I hope you enjoy your weekend. Enjoy watching whatever sport you're into, and I'll be back next week with an update on everything that's gone on in the last few days. So until then, take care, all the best from me, and I'll see you then.